If you want to change people so that they do something differently, then what you need to do is communicate effectively with them. I'd like to help you with that. Hi, I'm Chris, I'm a doctor, I've read this book and I'm going to summarize it for you. It's called The Power of Communication, Skills to Build Trust, Inspire Loyalty and Lead Effectively by Helio Fred Garcia. Firstly, effective communicators take change seriously. They put in the groundwork in that trying to move somebody to think differently or act differently or do things differently takes effort, and you need to take your audience seriously, and you need to make sure and work hard to ensure that all arrangements move people towards their goal. And that means caring about what the audience actually think and feel now, and what it will take to get them to feel and think about how you'd like them to think about something else. And to do this, it's important to listen carefully and adapt to the audience reactions. Words, you've got to take these seriously. A word will often trigger worldviews and provoke reactions. And if you can plan your engagement so that you're using the right words, then you can trigger the reactions that you're aiming to trigger. And effective communicators also know that the best communication can be counterproductive if it isn't aligned with action. As an effective communicator, you need to take seriously the package, all that an audience experiences, the verbal, the visual, the abstract and the physical, into one powerful experience. Now, this book's grounded in 9 fundamental leadership communication principles that together contribute to becoming a habitually strategic communicator. Firstly, communication. See this as the continuation of business by other means. It's intentional, it's interactive, and it's intended to provoke a reaction. Secondly, to move people, you need to firstly meet them where they are. Third, walk the talk. Don't just say things, they need to see that you are following through on your proposed actions. Fourthly, control the communication agenda. Let me tell you a bit more about that, because will those who matter to us expect us to do or say something now? If so, that's the time to act and the time to communicate. Also, are others talking about us now, shaping a perception about us among those who matter to us? And do we believe we have reason to believe that they will be doing this soon? Because if so, if they're about to talk about you in a way you don't want, or they already are, you need to quickly and effectively communicate fully before others can define a crisis or your motives or your actions. Will silence be seen as indifference or an affirmation of guilt? And if so, then you need not to be silent. And it would be the time to actually engage to prevent that perception of indifference. And if we wait, will we lose the ability to control the outcome? If so, we should not wait. So if you get no to all of those 4 sub-questions, then you can watch and wait, and perhaps prepare to engage with the stakeholders. However, if those are turned into yeses, rather than delaying to try and save embarrassment or anxiety, you need to act effectively, efficiently and quickly. So number 5 is that remember, even small events, changes or blunders can have big consequences. 6, plan ahead, align tactics with strategy. 7, invest in continuous improvement in communication skills. 8, harness the power of language and of framing. And to frame you there, I do know that that's actually number 9. Understand how the human brain works. And feel free to check out my playlist if you want to know about more about how the human brain works. I've summarized a few books that I hope you'll find helpful. But when shaping communication, recognize there's often a paradox of crisis communication. That if you want others not to talk about you, sometimes you need to say more than you initially want to. Because all effective leadership is goal orientated and is intended to change something. That's what part of being an effective leader. And you want to get the stakeholders to know, think, feel, or do something. And to do that, you need to already understand how they know, think, feel, or do at present. Let's talk a bit more about framing the situation. And often this is before the audience has done so. You've done it for them. And using mirror neurons, you can use these to your advantage. So humans often, if they detect somebody is feeling a certain way, unintentionally feel the same way. And they show empathy. So if you can first show empathy before providing a solution about what you're going to do about the problem, that can sometimes be helpful. As we feel first and then we think. And as a result, leaders need to meet emotion with emotion before you can move the audience with reason. Humans are actually wired for that connection with each other, and mirror neurons allow people to actually experience sensory perceptions from afar. This built-in empathy that humans has can be used when you're speaking with an audience, and we feel the audience not merely intellectually or emotionally, but often at times even physically. Leaders too often assume that facts matter, that logic will prevail, and that if only we just let the facts speak for themselves, stakeholders will understand and agree. But that's not the case. Primacy means the audience remembers what they hear first. Recency means they remember what they have heard last. And there's the rule of threes, and this means that people tend not to be able to remember more than three things. And this places a huge emphasis on repeating things. So people often don't remember more than three things. And when leaders are speaking to audiences under stress, even if the audiences are merely tired or distracted, the leader has to take into account the amygdala, the part of the brain, which will determine how the content is structured, so how the audience may or may not engage. As if the amygdala's switched on fully, they may not be reciprocal or in a good place to receive new information. And I like how the book says 3 things is all people can remember. Well, here's 5 strategies to engage an audience effectively. First, establish connection before saying anything substantive. And remember, that connection can be physical. Techniques to connect include asking for the audience's attention, if only with a powerful and warm greeting, followed by silence and eye contact. The key is to make sure the audience isn't doing something else so that they pay attention. And if you think of the selective attention test by Simons and Chabris, if you don't know what that is, please look at the video above, and about 2/3 the way through I'll explain that. But this is when people are paying attention to one thing, they even miss a gorilla walking through and beating on its chest. You need to get the audience to stop counting basketball passes and pay attention to the gorilla, which may be your agenda. You also have to take the primacy effect seriously. So you want to say the most important thing first to capture their attention. And it should be really framed powerfully to control the meaning of all that follows. And remember that the frame may have to precede facts. the recency effect also take seriously. So a recapitulation of the powerful framing statement that opened the presentation, which was in this to say, you can control other people only if you can communicate with them, not necessarily control but influence. And make it easy to remember. So keep in mind, when people are trying to listen, hear and remember things, they're often doing other things. So you have to keep repeating the themes. Even if you're bored of repeating these themselves, it's unfortunately a burden of leadership that you often have to repeat yourself several times. Because even if I'm presenting something and I say something 3 times, the audience may not be paying attention. So if I say this once again, the rule of 3 means that people can't remember more than 3 things. That's the 3rd time I've actually said that in this video, but you may have been doing something else whilst watching. So you can get that as a good example of having to repeat things, because people are often distracted, particularly on Teams meetings. They could be multitasking. And finally, I'd like to end this, the 5th point, with the rule of 3s, which is to say, have 3 main points and no more than that. I do hope that you found that helpful. It may be able to boost your communication skills. Put a comment below about how you found it. Share a like and subscribe, and I shall see you next time.